Hey guys, this is the video tutorial that I promised you that I would do for pen and ink. Many of you are at the point now where you should have already drawn out your interior view of the school that has 1 point or 2 point perspective in it. You should have sketched every little detail out with one of your H pencils, preferably your 2H. That's what I have done here. I'm showing this one as an example that I did several years ago of my husband. So I'm just going to kind of tell you how I created this first, and maybe it will help you to understand where you need to get started with your drawing, even though yours is not organic and it is geometric and man-made. Anyhow, this was a photograph that I took of my husband several years ago, and I took the photograph and I looked at it and I took a pencil and I drew out his face and features, his upper body. I drew the tree in the background, and this is just outlines of the highlights and the shadows that were cast onto bushes and trees in the background. I didn't really worry so much about getting a lot of visible detail in those because it's in the background, and remember, everything that's in the background is much less detailed than the stuff that is in the foreground, like his shirt and jacket and his face. So I drew all that out first with a pencil, and then I went back in with an ink pen like this, and I started doing something called hatching and cross hatching. So hatching is when you have really close parallel lines that run side by side, like these lines that you see in the open white areas here. Okay, they don't cross, they just go in one direction. Cross hatching is when you cross those lines. So you'll see hatching here in the lighter areas, but you'll see cross hatching where I've gone back over the line in the darker areas. Notice how when it's really white and light where the highlights are, I used really far apart space lines to create that area, and I left a lot of white space open. In extreme highlight areas like my husband's face here, I didn't put any lines at all, and that's what you'll do in your building pictures as well. Where things begin to get gray in the value, you want to do cross hatching like here, but you want them to still be further apart. See how these lines are further apart than the lines up here? Okay. When you get to the areas that are really dark, like these areas down here in his jacket that were really, really black, you want to make those lines go across each other over and over again till you get a really dark shadow area. The tree is a really good example right here of many different values, because you've got the really dark, really closely placed crosshatch marks over here in the shadow. Then you've got some gray areas that have lines that are crosshatched but further apart here. But you also have lines that are just hatched that represent highlights in this area as well. This is exactly what you'll do over the top of your pencil drawing to create a pen and ink drawing for your built environment. There's one thing that you really need to be aware of, though, before you begin. Notice how I started off in one direction with the lines, and all my lines follow that direction no matter where they are in the picture. So these lines go at an angle this way, and no matter where I am, I've got lines that are going at that angle. Whether I'm on the tree, I'm in the sky, or I'm in his jacket, the lines are all going at the same angle. Okay? And then the crosshatch marks are just horizontal lines. So all the way throughout, if I crosshatched, I went in a horizontal fashion. Okay? If you don't keep your lines going in the same direction like that, no matter where you're working in the picture, you're going to get chaos. Things are going to start to look like they're coming off the page, and they're not going to make a lot of sense. I'll show you an example. My husband's hair right here. It looks like he's got these really weird bumps and ridges in his head. That's because that's the area I started working in first, and I didn't understand this concept until my professor came over and saw what I was doing, and he was like, no, you got to make sure that you go in the same direction with your marks. So the hair is the only part that you'll see where the lines go up and down and side to side and curve. They're not supposed to do that. So after I fixed the hair and I finished it up, I started going back to my method of horizontal lines and the diagonal line. It has to be that way, or you're going to get a really weird vibe going on, really weird 3D feel, okay? Now, I'm going to show you some examples of former students' artworks that are built environment drawings. So just give me a minute. This one here was made last semester by a former student. Beautiful work. Fortunately for them, it was warmer when we were doing this project in the fall, and they were able to walk outside and take pictures of the building outside. So these two shots that you're going to see are images from around the building. The next one's even from a community building or a community house. But notice how in this artwork she's left the white areas wide open. She's not put a lot of marks there because there was extreme highlights in that area. And then where the shadows are, she went back in and cross-hatched. Okay? Very thin lines here, make little bitty marks to represent lines. You can see the lines of the mortar on the brick walls. Just make little marks in a row to represent lines like that. You'll have areas like that probably in the lockers and around the edges of your windows when you start to work. But notice how she changed the values in the areas in these bricks by cross-hatching closer together. So you've got a deep shadow here, but it's grayer here because light's hitting the wall there. So pay attention to things like that. On the ceiling up here, lots of shadow down here, but light in this part, so all the lines are further apart. This is a really good job and good example of how to do this. I'm going to hang this example on the whiteboard in the classroom so that if you want to go up and look at it tomorrow and Friday, you're more than welcome to. Here is another example that was done by a student last semester. This one's beautiful work. This was a house over at the corner of Edison and I believe Cox Street. But the road has the 1-point perspective as it goes up into the distance. But she also caught some of this nice wood fence and the tree in the background. Lots of detail in this one. Feel free to capture detail like that. But I just wanted to point out how, again, small little marks create those dark, deep shadow lines. So if you have little teeny tiny lines in your picture, make sure you get them that way. Little bitty teeny tiny marks. These marks tend to look like this when you're working. So you take your pen and you just make little marks like that over and over again until you get the line that you want. Don't draw a line like that. Make the marks with actual hatches. Okay, and if they need to be darker, go back and cross hatch. Just like that. Okay. Again, in the really bright areas, like the sky was really bright, she did not do anything there. She just left it white. So you're really just looking for grays and darks, and you're going to leave extreme highlights open. Okay. If you guys have any questions about what to do while I'm gone, please feel free to sign into your Remind account on your MacBook and send me messages. I will try to get back to you as soon as you send them, or send me an email and I will try to return those as soon as possible. I will be in professional development training for most of the day on Thursday and Friday, and may not be able to answer right away, but as soon as I can, I will try to get an answer to you. And of course, after school, I will be available to answer any questions you might have via Remind or an email. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week and a great weekend, and I will see you soon.